Good morning.
Mr. Piles.
Hey, Rob, how are you?
I'm good. Just pulling up my camera here for you, I think, anyway.
Yeah, you're looking good as always.
Look at that. Look at that
I'm
well lit room. Look at that well lit
tr-
room
I'm trying. I
with
wish I
an
could.
with an
Pick...
angel descending behind you. Looks like the heavens have been opened right through your roof, and that an angel is
uh...
descending.
yeah.
What's the best movie that you've seen lately?
Oh my goodness. Easy, hands down. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
I'm beginning to think that we do not have the same taste in movies.
Really? How come you didn't like it?
I didn't see it yet. I am going to see it.
Well, did you see Rise of the Planet of the Apes?
Yeah.
Okay, and how'd you feel about that one?
I don't know. I didn't much care for it. What did you think of it?
It's okay. It was a little bit slow in its storytelling, but this one's even better because I feel like the situations are legitimately suspenseful the whole way. I was kind of on the edge of my seat because
Really?
it's really about diplomacy.
All
It's
right.
about two ambassadors, and they're trying to make sure everything doesn't just go terribly wrong for their two species. And it's
How does
stressful.
Commissioner Gordon do in the movie?
Tremendous as always,
As
of
always, all right.
course. Yeah, he's amazing.
Commissioner Gordon is a co-star of the movie Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Yes.
Um, so I'm sure we've had some listener feedback over the past few episodes. It's got to be the case because some of the episodes got a lot of downloads, and I know that some people probably felt strongly about something. Do we have anything in the old mailbag
Oh
that
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a couple things that some direct questions as a result of those, and the first one is an email that comes from Derek in the UK, and the subject line is Chromebook for trading, and he
Oh,
writes, "Hi Rob and Jason. First of all, I must say that you guys continue to produce truly excellent programs that are essential listening for me every week. I always look forward to your twice weekly releases with eager anticipation. Then invariably I listen to them on my morning bike ride." And then he says, in episode 269, Rob's mention of his use of a Chromebook was particularly interesting for me as I am currently trying to decide which laptop slash Ultrabook to buy. It would be great to have Rob give some more details of his Chromebook experience. For instance, is it possible to run TradeStation slash Easy Language add-ons on a Chromebook? What is Rob using for charting? Best wishes to you both. Derek from the UK.
hey, Derek from the UK. Thanks for writing. Jason, what a great question.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's time to talk about technology and trading. What do you think?
Yes, I do. I'm ready.
All right. So, of course, there is a preference in the trading world for Windows oriented computers, and they have been popular for years in the trading space. They run all the programs. They are the industry default, at least for retail trading. Originally, all of the platforms were first built for Windows and were not even necessarily ever available for the Mac or for anything else. TradeStation in particular, TradeStation Securities, that's what we're talking about here, not FXCM's TradeStation, whatever. What he's talking about is TradeStation Securities platform. That's the company based out of Florida. That is not available for the Mac or for the Chromebook. And the only way that you can run it on a Mac or a Chromebook is by running a virtual simulator like Parallels on the Mac and running Windows on your Mac, which kind of sort of seems like it defeats the purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Or you could also run TradeStation on a virtual private server, which is a computer hosted somewhere else in someone's office, and then you remotely log into that server and you view that server through a window on your laptop as if you're using that other computer. And that's called a VPS, or a virtual private server. You can access any kind of software through a VPS by simply running it on the Windows machine remotely and then logging into it. And surprisingly, Jason, the Chromebook app, there's an app for the Chrome browser. That app that logged into a remote server was spectacular. I could log into a remote server and view a Windows desktop and use all the software that I generally like to use that only runs on a Windows computer, like MetaTrader or like TradeStation, and I could view it through a Chromebook. So those are viable options for you if you want to be super mobile. A Chrome, if you want to be super mobile. So I guess we'll lay out that first theory that you can pretty much these days, Jason, use any kind of technology that you want.
Yeah.
And you could theoretically even use an iPad, although I tried that and I got to say that was the worst of all of the solutions for sure.
Why did that go badly?
I just the thing about an iPad is it does everything. It does the consumption of information really well. You can view charts well. You can log into a virtual server reasonably well, but you can't share information very well, and you can't act quickly very well if something goes wrong.
Okay,
So,
I gotcha.
let's run down the options here
Okay.
from lightest and cheapest to most robust and most expensive. The lightest and cheapest option that you can have as a trader is a Chromebook. It's cheaper than any kind of tablet that you can get, and for $199 to $299, you can get what is essentially a pretty fantastic little machine that can do just about everything you want to do as a trader. Let me tell you what it can do and what it can't do. And I used an Acer Chromebook. It's just an Acer standard level $199 to $299 Chromebook. Lenovo also has a really wonderful machine that has a flip top and a touch screen and some other stuff, and I think it's only slightly more expensive, maybe $399. The benefits of that machine is that it's really cheap, and when it breaks or goes down, you just throw it away. The second benefit is if something goes wrong with it, you can pick up and run everything that you were doing through a Chrome browser on any computer anywhere in the world. You log into that Chrome browser, all of your apps, all of your passwords, all of your logons, everything is the same, everything is saved. You just pick up where you left off on a Windows machine, on a Mac machine, or you go out and you buy a new Chromebook, and all your stuff is right there, and that's really convenient.
Wow. Okay.
The third thing is you can still run just about any software you want. You can still trade with TradeStation Securities. You can still trade with MetaTrader. You just have to do it through a VPS. And they have a pretty spectacular browser plugin that is a remote desktop connection, and it's free. And it worked perfectly well for me. No problems whatsoever. And last of all, it was the only computer of any kind to connect to the internet when I was in Cannon Beach, Oregon, and had a really bad internet connection and no LTE or 4G. It was the only computer to connect really well. So from expense to connectivity, it was a really great solution, and that's why I praised it so highly. What it doesn't do is if you want to do web development, it doesn't do that. It doesn't have Skype, so you're not going to Skype and do podcast. It doesn't do content creation well, the altering of images or screen recording. Doesn't do any of those things well at all. It doesn't do well at content creation, but it does great at consumption of it, and you could even trade from it. The other thing that it doesn't do well is because it lacks a lot of RAM. All of these Chromebooks are going to have 2 gigs of RAM in it at the most. Because of that, it doesn't do well when you want to do a lot of things at the same time. So I was listening to Spotify and watching a YouTube video, and I had the browser open that had the remote desktop connection, and I noticed a significant lag in the software. Going along with that, you're not going to do any back testing on a Chromebook. You're not going to run Forex Tester on a Chromebook. You're not going to run TradeStation and do programming on the Chromebook. You're not going to create systems or do programming or do back testing. You're not going to do any of that on a Chromebook. It's truly for you if you're just trading and you have one platform and you don't do much else on the computer. And for me, I got pretty close to getting by on the Chromebook. I got pretty close to doing everything that I wanted to do with no issues, Jason, on that Chromebook.
Okay. So it almost sounds like it was kind of a temporary thing for you then, or was it just while you were traveling? That's what you
It
wanted to
would
do.
be a permanent solution for me if I wasn't a podcaster and a trader who did publishing of trades for other people's consumption. It just made it very difficult to publish trades, to show those trades, and to update my users and my subscribers. It made it really difficult. And it was impossible to run Skype on it, so it was very difficult to do a podcast.
Yeah. Okay.
The
All right. Well,
next
good.
computer that someone might think about is an iPad, and that's the next stage up from a Chromebook. Or maybe I didn't use an Android tablet, so I have no experience with that whatsoever remotely. But I do have a couple of iPads, and I have a brand new iPad mini that has the 4G LTE connection and the largest amount of storage and the Retina display. So I was kind of using the highest end Apple product that's available currently. And it does it does everything well that the Chromebook did well. And it did an even worse job at the content creation. It was even
Okay.
it was even worse. I mean, I could use Skype on there, but publishing content to the web from an iPad was a real pain. And I'm reasonably experienced. I downloaded Panix software for publishing straight to HTML and coding HTML on an iPad and uploading through FTP from the iPad. I've used whatever WYSIWYG or What You See Is What You Get editors on the iPad. All of those worked very slowly and felt cumbersome and difficult. So for publishing content, that was almost impossible. And I even tried to use WordPress's app for the iPad, and it just didn't publish every time correctly. And sometimes it duplicated posts with the same name and then made it very difficult later on because there were conflicting names. And I got to say that if you're publishing any kind of content, it's a losing proposition. And I just cannot imagine ever using that. And for trading, it was only a mildly acceptable solution, Jason, because getting to the charts was difficult. Logging into a remote server was more difficult. The web connection was poor. So it just didn't do, it does great as a content delivery device. I love watching movies and all that kind of stuff on the iPad, but I wouldn't recommend trying to go fully mobile and trade from the iPad. I think that could end up being a little bit of a disaster.
Okay. All right.
The next stage up, I think, is a less expensive Windows 8 machine, which you have in your favor. It's going to run every software program imaginable. You're going to be able to get a ton of RAM for the computer. You're going to be able to create content and consume content very easily and very quickly. And you're going to be able to start the computer up really fast and get to your trading immediately. I mean, it does all of those things really well. But Windows 8 is super frustrating. Those dual operating systems are a real pain, and it's not mobile. So you're lacking a lot of that mobility. And if you went in the Windows 8 direction, what I would recommend to everyone is, and this is going to sound crazy, and it's going to sound like I'm sponsored by Microsoft, and I will say that I was offered a free Surface Pro tablet, and I denied it like an idiot. I shouldn't have denied that, but I declined it. I should have taken it as a review copy, but I didn't take it. I would go with the Surface Pro. That's the Windows 8 full laptop that runs all of Windows, but it's a tablet and you can connect the keyboard. And they have all these crazy commercials where they're clicking in the keyboard. And they have a third generation version of this, and it's amazing. You get to run your full Windows computer. You can do all of your back testing. You have enough RAM to run TradeStation. You have enough RAM to run MetaTrader. You could do all of your content creation. You can run Skype. You could do podcasting. You could do Hangouts, or you can do all of the work that you're ordinarily going to do. You can run Microsoft Office. You can do all the things that you were going to do, and your trading, and you can consume your Netflix and your movies and your music, everything straight from that little device. In fact, I think for most people that like to be mobile and want to run trading software, there probably is no better solution than a Microsoft Surface Pro. And I have struggled recently to figure out why I'm not using one. It's
well, why do you think it is?
well, I just haven't bought one, I guess. And I bought one actually, but then I gave it to Wes. So Wes is using a Surface Pro and loves it.
Oh, okay.
And it would be interesting to call him up on the next podcast and just truly ask him what he thinks of it. But it plugs into remote monitors. It can run a giant monitor. It can run a lot of stuff. And I got to say that across the board, having played with one of those while I was on the road in a Best Buy store and having talked to Wes about it, I don't think there's a better solution. If you want to run all of your software natively and you want to be mobile and you want it to start up quick, and then you can just kind of toss your tablet away because you can consume all the stuff that you would ordinarily consume straight from that Windows Surface Pro. It does all the things that you would want to do.
Well, that's pretty convincing. So this might be a dumb question, Rob, but like for Apple lovers, so like the MacBook Pro or the latest MacBook stuff, none of that's really contender.
So on the highest end of everything that you could do, you have the final element of this, which is running Windows on a Mac and getting the best of both worlds. I've been using a MacBook Air 2012 generation, mid-2012 computer with the most amount of RAM that you could get in it, 8 gigs of RAM, no Retina display. And I was told at the store that this machine would not do everything that I wanted it to do, that it would be too light on the power side and on the RAM side. And I have to say, it has never let me down, and it has been a spectacular computer. I wish I'd gotten more storage on the computer, and I wish it could have more RAM. But this is on the highest end. It's going to cost the most of all of the solutions that we've talked about to get a version of it that can run Windows. It will be very close to the price of the Surface Pro 3. It will be very close in price. What you're not going to get is it's not a tablet. You're not going to be able to fold it over and consume your content from it. And you're going to have to get a copy of Windows to run certain programs like TradeStation. It connects really well. It can connect to almost any internet connection pretty well. It did pretty well at that. And all around, it's the best computer operating environment that you can possibly get. Because if you want to use Windows, you can use Windows. And if you want to be on the Mac, which I do want to be on the Mac, you can be on the Mac. I have a Thunderbolt display set up here, and I've got my really light and easy to carry MacBook Air with me everywhere I go. And I've been waiting for this 12-inch MacBook Air that's coming out with a Retina display, and they say it's now going to be delayed into 2015. And I'm telling you, Jason, if it's not out in the fall, I'm gonna sell my Thunderbolt display, and I'm gonna pack up my MacBook Air, and I'm gonna go do a Surface Pro 3 with an external monitor, because I'm not gonna wait to 2015 for a computer that's not gonna be a tablet. If Apple could release an iPad Pro, a 12-inch iPad that runs the Mac OS with 8 gigs of RAM, that clicks into a keyboard. Essentially, if they could make a Microsoft Surface Pro, it would be game on for me, because I want one device that I can carry around and use for my one computer. Yeah. It's hard to justify spending the money on a Mac for a trader unless the software that you use, like Thinkorswim or a Java version of your trading platform, works natively for the Mac. So those are the hardware solutions. I guess I should talk also after you. I would love to hear what you think about all this. We should talk about the software that's going to be run on all these computers.
Oh, I say go ahead, because I'm not actually up on all this stuff, so you're doing great.
All right, so for trading, I trade through a MetaTrader platform, and I log in through a VPS, so I don't really need one type of computer or the other. I'm always going to be logging into a VPS. The VPS runs all the time, and sometimes there's a robot on that computer, and so I need to have access to a VPS, but I don't care what operating system is on it. I create a lot of content, and for that, the Mac environment is brilliant. I love running Macromedia Fireworks and Dreamweaver and Skype and Adobe Audition. I love running those programs on a Mac. Snagit, Camtasia. I love the way the Mac runs those programs. That's for content creation. The other side of trading is charting, and I'm telling everybody, and I've been saying this forever, you really ought to consider using TradingView.com charts. They are mobile. They go wherever your browser goes. So I've used them on an iPad, a Chromebook, a Windows computer, and a Mac, and they've always been my charts. wherever I went on any computer that I was on. My indicators were built for TradingView.com. They do cost money. They're like $19 a month. But the first and latest version of all of my indicators are always released for TradingView charts because they partner with me, and I absolutely love it. It's web-based charting for every financial instrument that you could possibly want: stocks, futures, currencies. And they have tons of different instruments from all over the world, and it's all real time. So everything that I could possibly want, Jason, is always on there. And I am a all web cloud kind of guy. I love that
You
stuff.
are. Yes, you are.
I really
Cool.
like that stuff. So I trade from MetaTrader, and then I chart from TradingView. And I've always had a dual solution. I also do some trading from my phone using mobile platforms on the phone, and I think that's going to become a solution that's more viable over time than it is even right now. And I know you can trade from Thinkorswim or most of the big brokers straight from your phone. So you could always chart on one platform and trade on your phone pretty easily.
Wow. Well, that's pretty good. I think you did a good job, Rob, answering Derek's question there. I bet he's got some stuff to think about now.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So I'd love to hear from the listeners. What technology do you use as a trader? What are you using now? And do you have multiple solutions? I want to know, Jason, what's the technology life and profile of the traders that listen to the podcast? What do you use? Do you have an iPad? Do you have a Windows computer? Do you have a laptop? Do you have a desktop, a laptop, and an iPad? Do you have a desktop, a laptop, and a tablet? What do you have, Jason? And I'd love to hear from our listeners. So how can they reach the show?
Well, they can either email us at producer@traderspodcast.com, or they can just leave a comment in the show notes for this episode, Rob.
That's fantastic. Now we're in the middle of, speaking of technology, doing some really cool things on the Traders Podcast, and we want to announce a few things. Number one, there are a couple of ways to subscribe to the podcast. And Jason, how can listeners subscribe to the podcast?
Okay. Well, if you go to our website, we've got a little icon on there in the top right corner. You've probably seen those before, and that'll take you directly to iTunes, because we've got a little iTunes link there. And you can subscribe that way. Actually, I'm just looking here. Yeah, it's a little disc with 2 notes on top of it. Or you could just find us in iTunes if you're iTunes savvy, which most people are. And again, there's just a subscribe button, and it's free.
And you can also pull up your phone and go to your podcast app. If you're on an Android phone, you can go to your favorite app for podcasts. And if you're on an iPhone, you can go to Podcasts. It's a standard app inside of the iPhone. And just search for our podcast and click subscribe. That's great for us because we get to deliver our episode to you pretty immediately. Now, the next exciting news is that the app for the Traders Podcast will be released for Android this week and will be released for iOS within 2 to 3 weeks. It takes a little bit longer to get an app approved in the Apple Store. But that app, Jason, will allow us to push a notification to you when the next episode is ready, and will allow you to see the latest episodes and the latest YouTube videos that we produce, like the one that you might be watching right now to listen to the podcast. And it delivers you straight to our Facebook and our Twitter feeds, right all within the app. Now, it's not a fancy looking app. I made it myself, and it's not extraordinary. But I got to say, Jason, if you like the podcast, you're going to like the app because it makes it easy to get to the podcast and consume the content and get to the latest episodes on the podcast. So we're looking forward. Within a few episodes, Jason, we'll be able to release that to everybody.
Yeah, well done. I'm excited about that, Rob. That's cool.
Yeah, it's kind of hokey. And I built it myself, so it's not going to look great. But I am excited, everyone. I'm really looking forward to that. So, Jason, how can someone write into the show? How can a listener? We want your feedback. How can we ask them to tell us what kind of technology they use? I think this time, could we ask them to go into the comments section of this episode? That might be the best way to do it.
Absolutely, yeah. So if you go to traderspodcast.com, and it's episode 271, that's the one that you're listening to right now. And then you just go to the bottom there and just leave a comment for us, and we'll get it, and we'll talk about it. We'd love to hear it.
Okay, that sounds awesome. We look forward to hearing from you. On behalf of the producer, Jason Piles, I'm Rob Booker, and you're listening to the Technologically Advanced Traders Podcast.